The Punkt MP02 changed my life. Watch until the end of this video and I'm gonna tell you why I don't use it anymore. It changed my life because it allowed me to get rid of my smartphone and to set the example for my kids to show that daddy is not using a smartphone, he is using a dumb phone, and it's okay. It's different from other people around and it's fine. This example will stay with them forever. Every time somebody will tell, hey, my parents use a smartphone, my kids will say, no, mine use dumb phone. And even now, when I'm using a dumbed down smartphone, my kids still remember the 3 years I have been using Punkt MP02. They remember that my wife also used it. First of all, the screen goes bad every year, approximately. A year and a half maybe, and the screen is dead. And we had at least 4 or 5 Punkts in our family. Each time it's the same deal. Just it's a flaw of the screen. The screen goes bad after a year and a half, and the phone is very difficult to be used because the screen is unreadable in its entirety or in its half at least. Another problem is the software, or rather I should say the firmware. So the firmware is bad. It makes the phone crash at random periods in time. You have to basically reboot the phone once every 1 or 2 days, because if you don't do it, you run the risk that it will suddenly become unresponsive, or maybe it will not allow you to, press buttons at a point in time where you need it, just for example, to answer a call. And it's not a big deal since you buy this kind of phones to have a little bit of friction, but this kind of friction is not really the best one. And you don't really want to have this kind of friction if you pay $200 or $300 for a phone. The last thing is, of course, a lack of a well-communicated development schedule, and so you don't really know how long this phone will be updated. You don't really know how long they will deal with some of the bugs. You don't know which timings they give themselves to deal with those bugs, because there's bugs with the Pigeon app, so the Signal client, which is on the Punkt MP02. There are bugs that were around for 6 or 8 months before they did something about them. And there are other bugs that they are very, very rapid to fix, 2-3 weeks and it's done. And so no predictability in the firmware department really, and in bug fixing is a major problem for me, at least, because you don't really know how long you will have to deal with some of those inconveniences. That is why I have decided to go back to an iPhone to dumb it down, because at least the iPhones right now have such a good track record of having stable software that I don't have to think that suddenly the application that is responsible for calls will stop working. And at the same time, the Punkt, as I said, has changed my life, because it allowed me to set a good example for my kids. My kids right now are using Punkts also. And also it allowed me to break free from the addiction to the smartphone that I had myself. And right now I am able to use my iPhone in such a way that it is not problematic. I've got a couple of apps on it because I need those apps. Those are financial and two-factor authentication apps most of the time, and I use also Logseek, and so I have the Logseek app on my iPhone also, and it works very well. I don't have the temptation to suddenly install an internet browser or some kind of another addicting application and just go back to the rabbit hole of wasting my time. And it would not be possible without the 3 years I have spent exclusively with a Punkt MP02. So thank you, Punkt, but you could have done better, you know. And so that's it. If you have some of your experiences with using a dumb phone, please share them in a comment. Thank you very much. There are ducks that are gathered here near the center of the lake where there is no ice, and they are gathered around this patch of no ice because there is food inside. There is small fish. This is so cool.